Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining another Showcase AMA in the Polygon Discord. I'm currently the host of this series. My name is Zonzi, and today we have two special guests coming in from Railgun. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. I am a Railelujah churchgoer, or Alan, as you see me on the website. Joined the Railgun Project Core, I guess, advisory group about a year ago. Been in crypto since about 2017, primarily participating in I guess, regular degen, leverage trading, and stuff like that. And then, have since quit my day job to full-time head up, I guess, growth and things like that. The DAO very lovingly calls me the janitor because I clean up everything and just do stuff, pretty much everything that isn't the development of the protocol. And then, of course, we have Kai here as well.
Yeah, I'm Kai. I've been with the Railgun project since pretty much formation of the DAO. So that's it's over a year and a half now. I got in crypto um, since pretty much the very beginning. Wrote my own mining software back in 2009, 2010. Going through 2014. A lot of people like to call me OG, but I don't think of myself as one because, didn't really have any involvement in any projects particularly till later on. But that's me. Yeah.
Wait, so Kai, you have a pretty in-depth computer programming background, I assume. Would you like to go a little bit more in depth on that and talk about how that helps with you contributing to Railgun?
Yeah. So at 6 years old, I basically self-taught programming. So story is a little bit funny, but I basically, if anyone knows what a Tamagotchi is, I used to own one of them when I was younger, and the batteries ran out, and no one was my parents weren't willing to buy new batteries for me, so I decided I'd go and make my own Tamagotchi. So I taught myself to program and made a web app based Tamagotchi clone where you take care of a Pikachu. Kind of went from there, got involved with blockchain stuff back in 2008, 2009. So when Bitcoin was just a white paper, wrote a bit of code for myself. Um, as the crypto space progressed, I got involved in various different projects in different fields in crypto, and I'd like to think that I've got a fairly good cross section of the various different fields that are involved in crypto, and I've got a good broad knowledge as well as deep knowledge of things like smart contracts and all. So that's kind of been a big help with working on Railgun because Railgun kind of, there's the privacy aspect of it, but it also touches so many different fields. Just being that it's a project that is aiming to bring general purpose privacy to existing EVM chains. Having the experience of working in different or working on different aspects of blockchain has definitely been useful.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that Tamagotchi story. That's funny. Um, why don't we jump into what is Railgun? What does it do? And how is it bringing privacy to Ethereum?
Yeah, so good question. So Railgun is a zero knowledge proof smart contract system that allows users to take and shield any ERC asset that they would like, including NFTs, into the smart contract and then transact those in a private way, right? And the beauty of what has been built here in Railgun is that it's a true layer one like smart contract. So you can do like any like arbitrary smart contract calls that you would like that you normally do with like a public balance. We can actually take and code that up and do it with the private balance. So currently Railgun is deployed on Ethereum, BSC, and then of course Polygon, which is why we're here today. It's actually ironically one of the most used deployments so far, even in its nascent stage. People at this point can now do private swaps and send assets among each other. And we'll be looking to grow that integrations over time for people to be able to do all the different degen stuff that they would like to do, whether it's lending, farming, take and participate in the curve wars, buy NFTs, provide LP, and then hold that that LP NFT of their V3 position in their private balance, and really just build like a burgeoning ecosystem of privacy capable integrations throughout the throughout the space. I guess I'll leave the more technical explanation of it to Kyron though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, do you want to?
I was gonna ask if you would mind giving a basic
All right.
explanation
Yeah. So
as
I
to
guess
what the
just
ZK
to
proofs are.
kind of like take a. Yeah. I think I want to go over just kind of a higher level overview of the ways of approaching privacy on kind of like existing chains, if that's all right. So essentially, you've got two kind of ways that you can approach adding privacy to an existing chain. So you can you can create protocols which keep you can create protocols which add privacy at a protocol level. So like a private Uniswap or so on. And you can add privacy at a wallet level. So and I guess you've got like other approaches which sort of require their own chain. So I don't really want to call out anything specific, but the drawback to that is it kind of requires you to move all of this economic momentum that's already existing on things like Polygon and ETH over onto another chain, which is like that's pretty prohibitive in terms of like just pure economics and marketing. But so Railgun kind of takes the approach where it adds privacy from a user wallet perspective. So it just doesn't require privacy from like protocols such as Uniswap, SushiSwap, Aave, and so on. And what that allows is you can add privacy to pretty much any existing protocol on these sort of chains, but B, one of the reasons that like we got into this whole like blockchain space, right? If you look at the Bitcoin Genesis block, it contains a reference to a Times article that talks about bailouts of banks and so on. And like back in 2008, you had this whole issue with kind of like obscuring the like subprime mortgages and all, and obscuring what really underlies an asset. And so kind of in that ethos, right? Like it's pretty important to be able to audit a financial protocol and ensure that like, okay, well, it says that it does this thing, it says that it's over collateralized and so on. Is it actually over collateralized? Can I look at the state of the system and verify that? And I think that's a pretty important it's a pretty important property to have in financial protocols. But you also want to make sure that there's privacy given to the end user. And so approaching things from like the wallet side allows you to have the best of both worlds, right? So you can allow the user to have privacy. So you can't tell what user is taking particular positions and all, but you can still go to a protocol and say, hey, are you acting as intended? Yes, no, right? Yeah, you asked about specifically the zero knowledge proofs. So essentially the zero knowledge proofs in Railgun, they're intentionally so you've got the core contracts which handle the verification of the proofs, and they're intentionally simplified as much as possible to only deal with transfer of ownership. And so that the reason for that is it reduces the attack surface, which is pretty important in a privacy protocol because you want to ensure like it's as you can imagine, if a a bug is found in a privacy protocol, it is pretty difficult to find, like to track down where it's been exploited or if it's been exploited even. And it's a lot harder to figure out whether a bug exists in a privacy protocol than it is to figure out whether a bug exists in a public protocol, just by virtue of the protocol being private, right? So we've intentionally or the Railgun architecture intentionally simplifies the snark circuits and the core contracts which contain which deal with the accounting of who owns what within the private pool. So the snark circuit essentially just allows you to transfer ownership either within the private pool or out to an externally owned account within any, like, well, we're currently deployed on EVM chains or an externally owned EVM account. And then you can also, it's got a field called the adapt ID, which allows you to, so you can embed the hash of arbitrary data in there. So you can extend the core contract by calling it from a contract which will like take the pre-image of the hash in that adapt ID field, and that data can say encode a couple of cross contract calls that you want to call. So you could say, well, I want to interact with Uniswap, or I want to take my DAI, swap it to ETH, and then take that ETH and like put it into STETH or something, right? Whatever arbitrary calls you want to make, and that allows for a lot of flexibility. So you've got these modules that you can add on separate to the core contract, which can extend the feature set of the core contract while only having access to the funds for the duration of that one transaction, and only have access to the funds that are relevant to that one transaction. So if you wanted to like swap DAI for ETH, you'd only give it access to the DAI that you wanted to swap. You wouldn't, have access to anything else. So that's kind of like minimizing the attack surface, but still leaving the door open to having a wide array of contract calls. Hopefully, I haven't gotten too deep into the technical stuff, but that answers your question.
That was good. I think it's
do
really
is
good.
like maybe do like a demo. I think it's easy to see too, right? But yeah, go ahead. You were saying?
If we want to jump into the demo, we can. I think it was really good how you're highlighting how all the privacy and user security works. Also, I was wondering, I know you already touched on this a little, but I'm wondering if we want to dial back a bit and just talk about how Railgun integrates with other existing DeFi protocols and what integrations you have planned.
This might be a question for Alan, but I think he's muted.
Yeah. So I think like in terms of like integrations that we have right now, we have an adapt module set up for the 0x DEX aggregator API, right? So you guys are probably familiar with things like Matcha, for example. This is like one of the front ends that uses that uses this 0x routing, if you will. So what that does is it allows us to take and like tap into the liquidity of Uniswap, SushiSwap, Paraswap, fill in the blank swap, whatever it may be, right? We can take and actually pull liquidity from all of these sources, right? So this gives us like a really rich ecosystem of tokens that people can take and swap to in a private fashion without building like direct specific integrations for all of the dexes that exist on all of these chains, right? So really great bang for buck integration at this point, right? So in terms of like future integrations, our goal is really to allow people to do the things that they do now in a private fashion, right? So it's really quite interesting in how you can do this, right, with the arbitrary smart contract calls, and I'll let Kai kind of speak to that a little bit more. But suffice it to say, in terms of like integrations that we have planned, one of the more exciting things that, well, at least I guess I'm excited about is the integration with the Ren protocol, right? So you guys may be familiar with like Ren from Ren BTC, Ren SEC, and the like. I think it'll be really cool to be able to take in Ren Mint assets directly into a private balance and keep your, let's say you mint Ren BTC directly into your 0ZK, your Railgun private balance. This effectively keeps your Ethereum and your Bitcoin identities bifurcated, right? And this is really, really important when it comes to privacy. The last thing you want to do is link your ID on various chains that don't have like the same address structure, right? So I'm really, really quite excited about that. If we look at the usage of it, we're probably going to take and integrate the things that are being used now, right? So if we look through the usage of Railgun thus far, we're going to look at integrating Badger for BTC yield, and then of course there's a lot of people very interested in all facets of Curve. So we'll be looking at how to integrate things like Curve very early on, and then sort of grow from there. But ultimately we'll be listening to the community as to what do they want to do in a private fashion. So if you want to voice your opinion on that, I'd suggest, of course, joining our DAO. But yeah, Kai, I'd love if you could maybe walk us through a little bit the technical way that this happens.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of people are kind of like ask, oh, well, can Railgun do X, or is Railgun going to X or Y feature or so on? Railgun itself is an intentionally simplified protocol with the express purpose of being able to integrate other protocols in a private from a user perspective manner. So like Railgun doesn't have a bridge or a DEX. Well, there is rarely swap in the works. So I can't really say not a DEX, but doesn't have a bridge or like yield farm or anything integrated. And that's kind of by design, right? So Railgun's really focused on providing the maximum amount of privacy for the user. But allowing the extensibility for other projects to come in. So back to the kind of like adapt module structure, right? So you've got the core protocol, but you can also so you've got the core contracts which just handle transfer and like a transfer of ownership and accounting within the private pool. But as a user, you can say, well, I want to use a particular adapt module which interacts with, say, Ren, which provides a cross-chain bridge for various assets. So let's say you've got like Bitcoin, right? You can go on and say, okay, my wallet that I'm using supports Ren, a Ren adapt module. So I'm going to go into there. It'll give me, say, a Bitcoin address that I can send Bitcoin to, which will then get bridged over onto, say, like a Polygon, right? Because we're in the Polygon Discord. So, of course, we're using Polygon. It'll get bridged onto Ren BTC on Polygon and deposited straight into your private balance within Railgun. And that doesn't reveal the user's address on the Polygon side, because that's kind of like that's shielded within Railgun. And you can kind of take that Ren BTC and say, like, put it into a yield farm or take a Aave loan out on it, or you even just use your Polygon Ren or your Polygon Railgun address as just a private BTC address, right? So you can send the Ren BTC back to any BTC address that you wanted, through the Ren bridge, and that would function as like a private BTC address if you wanted to. So there's a lot of flexibility that you can have just by kind of picking and choosing these different adapt modules that you wanted to use, and you just kind of figure out, okay, well, I've got a wallet that supports XYZ adapt module, or I've got a wallet that can connect to, like the Uniswap front end, which has a Uniswap adapt module that you want to use, and just providing the extra functionality that way rather than trying to build it or bootstrap the liquidity and the functionality through like an entirely new ecosystem.
Yeah, so I guess the point is to make it like pure wallet side privacy with like, ultimate compostability throughout the ecosystem, right? We're not trying to compete with Aave, right? I don't think that would be very good for us to try to do. They have all the TVL already. So I guess it's really kind of the difference in between like trying to lure the ecosystem to your solution or bringing the solution to the ecosystem. And we're certainly doing the latter because we believe it's it's a lot easier battle to win, I think.
Fantastic. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering if we want to jump into doing a showcase screen share presentation.
Oh, you know it. All right, let's see how this technology works, man. Let's have some fun. I think that's the
Awesome.
easiest way to do it. All right, so let's see.
Yeah, guys, this is an AMA, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the voice chat text channel. Just we don't let people turn the mics on because if everyone could unmute themselves, it'd turn into chaos. So yeah, drop the questions in the voice chat text channel. It's just 2 channels up from this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out on the voice chat messaging. Hopefully, you guys can see my screen. Doing a bit of screen sharing here. Fellow hosts.
That looks great.
All right, cool. Gucci. All right, yeah. So what we have here is Railway, right? Railway is the first wallet that has actually taken and integrated the Railgun smart contract into it. So I guess I'm gonna do some private public things in front of people. This is a bit weird, right? Using a private balance in front of a lot of different people. But anyway, suffice it to say, we have here the wallet, right? So we could see my private balance on Polygon. We can flop over and see my public balance on Polygon. We can see that I got some, Matic, and that's about it. I'm very poor in the eyes of the public. If we go to my private balance, we can see I have some Matic, I have some DAI, some Rat Bitcoin. The buy and the dip on that. It had some Ether in here, but got rid of that. You also see, of course, we have Ethereum. We have BNB, Smart Chain, and then of course we'll go back to Polygon because I think it's the best, right? So we can actually take, and let's say for example, I wanted to take and shield some of my assets. It's really quite simple. I take some of the tokens that are in my shielded, or I guess not shielded balance. We'll take 10 of these, Matic, why not? And probably help if I put my password in, right? And we'll go mega aggressive on the gas so you guys don't have to wait for the magic to happen. And this gets sent to the smart contract. So if we actually take a look at this activity on Polygon scan, we'll take a look at that once it actually clears. We can take my private balance and say I wanted to take and send somebody some tokens. Let's see, we'll do this guy.
Oh, I think we lost you there.
All right. Can you guys hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Your stream's closed though.
Yeah, God bless technology, man. I had my Bluetooth connected to my phone and my wife just called me. So yeah, we'll go to screen 2. We'll go live on that. So yeah, you guys can see this. Anyway, yeah, so where was I? So if I wanted to take and send tokens in a private way to somebody, let's see, I'll send it to this DAO member here. We'll send them I don't know, 10 Matic. I want to send him, I guess, some DAI too. We'll send him, I don't know, 10 DAI. Why not? We'll send him some tokens, or her, actually. And what it does is it estimates a fee to a relayer, and we'll talk about what that means in just a second. We generate a zero-knowledge proof of all of this information. And this happens on the client side. In other words, it happens here on your computer. And then we take and we have that submitted to the blockchain. And so that transaction's sent. Let's say I wanted to take and unshield some tokens. Let's, send them to, I don't know, somebody. We'll do dude. I'll send him some DAI. I'll send him, I don't know, 3. We'll send him 4.2069 DAI. And again, the relayer takes and estimates a fee for us. We generate a snark proof of all of that handy dandy information. And then we just take and submit this to the blockchain, right? So this is tokens coming out of my private balance. Let's see. Gas prices have changed. Cool. So we'll update the gas cost. And yeah, we have that transaction sent. And then let's say, for example, I want to, I don't know, I want to buy the dip on Bitcoin, right? I'm still bullish. Bitcoin maxi on Polygon. I can take some of my Matic and I don't know, buy some rat Bitcoin, for example. And I can do this in a private fashion. Again, the relayer estimates how much this transaction will be for me. I pile all that up into a snark proof, and that is submitted to the blockchain. We swap tokens and we do it in a private balance, which is pretty sick. I think what's really interesting here, though, is to take a look at it on the on the scan, right? So hopefully you guys can see that this is like pretty transparently easy to use, right?
Yeah, it's a very intuitive user interface. I like it a lot.
Yeah, we tried to make it like something that people, would have, experienced in the past, right? Isn't to like, trick people. All right, so let's look here. So we could see, for example, let's go. Yeah, so this right here, this is the shielding of the assets, right? So this is that initial transaction that I did, right? Where I put I transacted some tokens into my private balance. And what we could see here, right, is of course my public address, right, which is 97 Echo Charlie. We can go to my public address and see that there, right, 97 Echo Charlie. There's nothing incredibly private about this, right? It's coming from a public address. But what's really interesting, right, is we could see the to address here, which is A5 FDC, right? So if we go in there, right, and we try to trace this down, right, even if we go to the any of the two addresses here, none of it is actually linked to my private balance. Ultimately, the recipient of this is the Railgun smart contract. So I do have an address in the Railgun smart contract. We can actually see that here. It's nice and mega long. I'll throw this in the voice chat, right? So if you guys want to send me some tokens, I won't say no, right? But you can't actually learn anything by that address, right? So if we put this in Polygon scan, for example, it's not going to give you anything, in spite of me having, say $1,300 worth of money in that balance, right? Which is pretty trick, right? So if we look at the internal swap that I did, which was really interesting, if you guys remember, I took and I sent a random DAO member, shout out to whoever that was, I guess. They got some tokens. We could see here that the from address, the from address is not me, right? So if we look at this from address, we could see here that it has 95 Matic in it, and what they're doing, it looks like they're just taking and forwarding transactions. So this is actually really cool to me. So again, if we look at the swap interface here, let's just go and whip something up really quick. I'll keep buying the dip on Bitcoin. We're still bullish here. We're all going to make it, right? So right here where it's estimating the gas fee, right, the relayer fee, what this is fundamentally a different wallet that'll take and pay the gas fee on my behalf. And this is actually a trustless transaction as well. And the reason it is trustless is because once I take and I generate that snark proof with that gas fee in it, if the relayer that signs and sends the transaction tries to manipulate it in any way, the verifier in the ZK Snark system on the Railgun smart contract will detect this and revert the funds back into my private balance, and the relayer is out of gas, right? And while this isn't particularly punishing on Polygon because you guys have really great and cheap gas, it's absolutely crippling anywhere else, right, in the world. And so this makes it a very secure way to take and have somebody sign a transaction on your behalf and obfuscate your wallet, right? So we'll see here that the transaction that I committed, which is 7 Foxtrot 29. If we go to my wallet, we can see my public address is 97 Echo Charlie. That's it's not me. And then if we look at the to address, right, it doesn't even dox the person that I sent the money to, right? The only thing that it shows is the smart contract for Railgun, right? And the reason why is because the note that I sent, right, the money that I sent to that DAO member is encrypted, right? And the only person that can decrypt it is the person that got the tokens. So once I send those off to him, I can't see them anymore. In fact, it's my viewing pleasure of those tokens is taken away. So if we look again, right, this is the transaction where I sent out 4.20 DAI to I don't know whoever this person is. So again, same similar situation here. You can see that the from address isn't me, and yeah, so Mariana, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a middleman for anonymity. That's exactly a great way to think about it, right? And then, of course, if we look at the swap, my personal favorite, we're buying the dip here on Bitcoin. We could see that the from address, again, not me. Looks like this relayer is collecting a lot of the transactions, which is really cool for them because they get a slight premium on gas paid, so they make a little bit of money in this transaction. And then, of course, the interacted with is just this smart contract. It's not actually me that's being doxed or anything like that. And we could see some Ratmatic come out and some Bitcoin come in, and no one is the wiser. And oh yeah, good point. Thanks, Not Dow. Yeah, you guys can click on these yourself. There's I'm over here Vanna whiting it, and yeah, here I'll actually go and give you guys the other 3 as well. Where are my manners? And yeah, we'll drop those in the chat for you guys to check out and dissect. As you can tell, those are completely private. Even if we look at the input data here, it's just a bunch of garbly goop. In fact, yeah, no one can actually tell what's going on there without without my private key. So totally and wholly private in that way. I guess we'll kind of pause it here. That's kind of like my Vanna White tour of my wallet I have so aptly dubbed D's. Yeah, I'd love to hear any questions folks might have.
Yeah, that was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really happy that it works. I feel like there's always some dubious karma that piles up on demos. So I'm really happy to see that it just worked very well. So yeah, we worked really hard as a DAO to make sure that we brought something together for people that works in a seamless and I guess a transparently familiar fashion. And it makes it really easy to use, right? We wanted to make it really easy to have privacy, right? So you have your public balance, you got your private balance, and you can see the inputs and outputs are all the same, right? So if you wanted to go to swap, yeah, you can swap things in a public fashion. You can swap them in a private fashion. It's all the same. We try to make it pretty easy to use, right?
So one question that I have is where you are currently at in terms of stage of development or roadmap. Are you guys live for use right now, or is this a private testing?
Oh no, this is totally live. It's on chain. The DAO voted to deploy the contracts on Polygon, on Ethereum, on Binance Smart Chain. So you can do all the stuff that I just did here. Yeah, yourself. You can do it yourself. So it all works right now.
Okay, so this is all open to the public right now.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so you could do it today, right now. It works, which is pretty cool. Because this has been, I guess, a year and a half of brain damage by the contributors. And yeah, we're really excited that like I guess we can call this V1 is out in the world and people can use it. In terms of like the roadmap, we're going to start building out those lighthouse cases that we were talking about, right? The REN integration, so the ability to take your Bitcoin and deposit that directly into a private balance on the Ethereum, Polygon, and BSC chains that we're deployed on already, and keep those personas separate and bifurcated. In other words, not link your public address on Ethereum to your Bitcoin address, right? This will be really cool for people. We're going to build out all these integrations. Currently, Kai is working on some really cool testing, a testing suite that allows those integrations to be really expeditious. So, it keeps it really easy and lightweight for people to take and build these integrations. And yeah, we look forward to, I guess, taking the world over in a private fashion, one integration at a time. Well, I guess we should also say that we're, going to be deploying on Near, on Solana, Polkadot. We're going to take and deploy on the L2s in the ETH ecosystem as well. So as Polygon takes and releases all those nice ZK rollups, we're going to deploy on those too. Why not?
Awesome. Lots of plans for expansion and growth. That's what we like to hear. One question I have, is there a Railgun token that somehow fits into this ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there is a Rail token which controls the Ethereum DAO. There's a Rail Poly token that controls the Polygon DAO, and then there's a Rail BSC token that controls the BSC DAO. And the reason why we did that is, we wanted to make sure, that we kept everything as secure as possible, and that like all the assumptions that you make by participating in this ecosystem are, I guess, the most secure that you can make them, right? So like the risk assumptions you make by using it on Ethereum is, the same that you would, make just on any dApp on Ethereum and Polygon and so forth, right? And so bridges are probably like the most insecure place in DeFi right now. RIP to the folks over at Harmony right now. I think they just got wrecked for like 100 million, right? Pretty bad. So we tend to avoid the bridges, and so we actually take and segregate all of the DAOs, all of the smart contracts from each other. This isn't to say that you couldn't, as an end user, take and use a bridge, just that the dApp itself doesn't, because we want to make sure that funds are hyper safe. And yeah, so the Rail token exists. It's a governance token, and it has the rights to take and vote on the ways that the DAO uses the treasuries, which I guess cumulatively across the chains we have right at $7.5 million in DAI and other assets for the DAO to use to take and grow the good name that is Railgun. So we can take and pay grants, pay bounties, I don't know, pay for smart contract audits, whatever we feel like we need. But also we're currently in the midst of a nice discussion in regards to dispersing some of those funds to the stakers as well on a on a regular basis to I guess give the Rail tokens some yield, right? So everybody likes yield, right? So the DAO is going to vote pretty soon on staker rewards, which we're all really excited about.
Sweet. Wow, there's so much exciting stuff in development here. That's really cool to hear. One thing I think would be important to highlight is what kind of users benefit from using Railgun. Um, like, is it just big time crypto users, or do little people with smaller balances stand to benefit too? Do you want to like delve into the benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're really witnessing something really quite fascinating in the ecosystem today, right? It's I almost wouldn't call it, and this is going to be hopefully nobody strings me up for my opinions in the world. I'm just an idiot, you guys. So I'm just the janitor. But my opinions are that like I think we're seeing a lot of like adversarial like warfare, right? We can see this all over like crypto Twitter, where people are taking and announcing like liquidation and like margin points for very large traders, right? And this includes like institutions, people like Celsius. people like Three Arrows, all these different people, and are, live action trying to take and get their adversaries wrecked. Like this is very dangerous, I think, if you are an institution, right? The last thing you want people to know is exactly where your liquidation point is on a leveraged position, right? Because if there's somebody who's bigger than you that can drive the price down, right, against you, that's going to force you to at least short up the margin, if not get liquidated, right? This is really bad, right? So if you are a large trader and you're doxed on chain, like let's say Nansen, has you as one of their hot tracked wallets, like so Genesis, for example, DCG, who we did a partnership with, they're really quite interested in privacy from that aspect. Basically we can call this like alpha preservation, right? So if you don't want people to know that you're accumulating a token, right? If you're participating in a spat or you're, buying the next, I don't know, dog shit Elon Moon 420 token out there that you're really bullish on or whatever it may be, right? And you don't want people to know that you're accumulating this position, right? You can use Railgun for this, right? If you don't want people to understand your farming strategy or the churn that you're doing on tokens to get yield, and you're doing this on chain, you can take and um, you can take and use Railgun for this, right? So, while it's, I believe, definitely geared towards people who are like institutional traders, especially on Ethereum, because Ethereum gas is high. I think it's really for anybody who values privacy, right? So if you value your privacy, you can take and use Railgun to, to help, maintain that privacy. I think it's really important if like this is the future of finance, right? If this is what the world is going to go to, and DeFi is going to win out and take over the world, we have to have some semblance of of privacy. Kai kind of alluded to it earlier when he was speaking about, the ability to have privacy on the right parts of DeFi and to have like transparency on the right parts of DeFi. So like in so much that I want to be able to verify that a smart contract is acting as it should, and that whenever I take and interact with, Curve or Convex or something like this, that it's going to do the things that I expect it to do, and not the things that I don't want it to do, like say steal my funds. That doesn't mean that like the world should be able to see like my bank statements just because I interacted with it. This would be akin to like going to your favorite cafe, swiping your debit card, and then like the barista, the cafe, and everyone who is at that cafe sees you swipe your card at 12:13 EST can go to the Starbucks scan and look and know everything about like your private finances. Like this is a massive, breach on your privacy. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like, would you want like, I guess Starbucks to have access to all of your financial data just because you bought a coffee from them? What do you think?
Of course not. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, that'd be really bad, right? So like, I think we need like systems like this in crypto, right? Just for like, forget all the degen stuff, right? I love degening, right? I'm a huge like, I'm on RB, I'm on, Polygon, I'm buying the dip, I'm doing the degen, I'm trying to be like the first 100 holders of some like new stupid token, whatever it may be. I love all that stuff. It's exciting. Uh, but just for like the pure peer-to-peer transaction aspect of it, forget everything else. Like the ability to send tokens to each other. Like, man, if you buy me a beer and I just want to like I don't know, split gas with you to the bar or whatever, and I want to send you some crypto, I don't think that you should have access to all of my like private financial data. And that is like the core tenet of like why we're doing what we're doing.
Sweet. Yeah, I think you touched on really something really important there. The whale liquidation hunting and how Railgun can be presented as a solution to solve that problem. And another thing too that you touched on was how users of Railgun can um, use this technology to accumulate a position in any random token. And I'm wondering if you're able to integrate like any random ERC20 token into Railgun, or is adding new ERC20 tokens to Railgun something that has to be voted upon?
So the contract has a Kai, help me out. Is it a whitelist or a blacklist? I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's a blacklist.
Okay, yeah. So there is technically in the smart contract a blacklist functionality, right? And so the DAO could vote to blacklist certain tokens if they so chose, right? And there are like two token types that really sort of bastardize the ERC standard so far that they just simply aren't compatible with Railgun, and that is lottery and rebasing tokens. So, and the reason why is, lottery tokens, and just kind of abstracting it away without getting into like the really technical heavy stuff. If you win the lottery, it let's say the tokens that you have, if you win the lottery, it doesn't know where to send the tokens, right? And then on rebasing tokens, it's kind of the same thing. Like, it can't actually send your rebase to you into your private balance. So like those are the only two things that are really incompatible with Railgun. But any token that you can imagine that's not one of those two things, reflection tokens. I'm not really familiar with reflection tokens.
I
I think I
believe
need to
that's
level up on my
the
degen.
same category you're talking about, the Elon Musk 420 token, or like a Safe Moon token. Just the generic like crap coins.
Yeah. So any tokens like that, so if you want to, Elon Born Doge, any standard ERC20. Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with reflection. If you want to drop like a link to something like that, I'd love to look into it, and I can definitely at you and chat if I look into that. I definitely don't want to mislead people in regards to what is and is not technically possible, but yeah, I could take a peek at like how those tokens are structured, and kind of make an educated guess. If you want to drop that in chat for us, Chilyo Polygoons, I like that. Maybe I'll add that to the back of my name.
Well, if you're familiar with the mechanisms of that viral coin, Safe Moon, whenever someone would buy or sell it, it would you would have to pay high slippage, because it would redistribute a percentage of the Safe Moon to other holders of the coin whenever you do a buy or a sell or a transfer, I believe. Those kinds of tokens.
Okay. Kai, what are your thoughts on that? You're more tech savvy of what can and cannot be in the world of a railgun.
Yeah. So the tokens which kind of take a fee on transfers, depending on how they take it, they can, or yeah, they will or won't be compatible with Railgun. Tokens which kind of do like the airdrop to existing holders based on like fees taken from trading. Most of the time, those airdrops essentially work as a rebase, and so they kind of fall under the rebase tokens and aren't compatible.
So I guess it's it depends, user beware. I'm really weary of any of like the really complex tokens that really stretch away from like ERC20 standard.
Yeah, one thing, since I brought up SafeMoon and the whole reflection token system, I should probably mention that most of those coins are worthless trash, not financial advice, wouldn't buy them. They tend to have no utility outside being a Ponzi scheme. So, uh, just want to
Hey,
throw that out there as a
I
disclaimer.
participated in those. I remember like back in the day, like whenever rebasing tokens were like super new, I was like participating in like base and then rebase. And then I started getting like really degenerate, and I bought a token called SOAR, SOAR. It was like SOAR.fi. It was really super shitty token, absolutely cratered. But like the premise was that like you didn't even have to stake it; it would just like rebase into your wallet, and like none of that went anywhere. I've definitely been burnt by plenty of those tokens. Um, so yeah, but you can also use it for like things like NFTs, which I think is really exciting as well, right? So you can take and hold an NFT, right? Not just like your standard profile pic type thing, but like think Uniswap V3 position, for example, right? If you want to provide liquidity to to Uniswap in a private fashion, yeah, you could do that and actually hold that NFT in a private fashion, which is really exciting too. So while there are certainly some limitations, we always try to be upfront about that kind of thing as a DAO. I think it's pretty robust in how you can use it.
Fantastic. And yeah, guys, questions are being asked right now in the voice chat text channel. So make sure to drop them in there. We still got a bit of time left to ask questions. So and be mad, chill, yo. I appreciate you going very in depth with all the technicals. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it's always fun to see. I like that people are interested. I mean, these are good questions. So
Yeah, you basically answered all the questions that I had. One of the questions I did have was who are your competitors and how do you differentiate yourself in order to stand out from them? But clearly you um, differentiate yourselves in a lot of ways. I don't think there's any really comparable projects to you, like maybe on the transfer and mixer end, but you guys aggregate so many different features into one protocol, and that's really nice to see.
yeah, I mean, I guess like in terms of like the privacy landscape, broadly speaking, there's basically like your privacy chains, like your privacy L2s, and then like maybe like privacy solutions that are like purely on like an L1 or something like this, right? Um, so um, when it comes to like privacy blockchains, you have things like Monero and Zcash, and those are really great in terms of like peer-to-peer transactions. So you could take and send tokens by way of Monero and Zcash in a reasonably private way, and this works great. However, it's really at arm's length from like DeFi, right? So being able to take and do your DeFi habits in a private way, right? And there's a good bit of capital out there in the DeFi ecosystem that definitely wants to do things. I think there is, last I looked, like some, I don't know, $68 billion in stable coins, something like that, out in DeFi right now. So definitely a ton of money in stables, out there that definitely need some privacy. And Monero and Zcash are really at arm's length from that, right? And then you have things like Secret Network. Um, they're definitely building something quite interesting in terms of a privacy first blockchain. But the battle that they will have is, I believe they'll have a battle, trying to lure builders to build and the liquidity to come into their ecosystem, right? And you can see that they're starting to gather some traction. So we'll see where the market plays for them. Then of course I think you have like your L1 type solutions, or excuse me, your L2s, right? You have your Aztec, and that kind of thing. And those have their own like limitations, in so much like, if you do a poorly timed transaction on Aztec, the clearing back to main chain can take up to like 6 hours, right? So a round trip is really quite long when it comes to Aztec. Um, and the last thing I want to do when I'm trying to get out of a position or maintain margin is wait. Um, and then you have like your L1 stuff, which is really just us and Tornado Cash, I think, at this point. And you've kind of hinted at some of the limitations of Tornado Cash and that it's just a non-custodial mixer. So the only use case of that is to deposit and withdraw tokens, whereas we're trying to set something up where it's like true arbitrary smart contract calls, everywhere that Railgun's deployed. So I guess that's kind of like the differentiation, right? The drawback in so much that um, the drawback for I guess Railgun, of course, is that the gas is higher, but the security assumptions, I guess, are lower, and like the compostability is bar none, in my opinion, a lot better over the long haul, especially as the SDK gets polished up and true arbitrary smart contract calls can be coded in. Yeah,
Thank you
but
for that
in terms,
elaborate breakdown. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, I
yeah,
didn't mean to
yeah.
cut you off if you're
No,
still
yeah,
going.
like that. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I guess I was looking at like the BMAD thing. So like the cool thing, right? I don't see it like breaking the contract, right? So to that comment there, it can't break the contract, right? Because at the end of the day, right, you have your notes. So the way it works, right, is and Kai, don't strangle me for being a complete moron here, please. But fundamentally, the way it works, right, is you take and you deposit funds onto a UTXO Merkle tree, right, and those are encrypted to your private key, right? So let's say you take and you put in, let's use my wallet as an example here, right? So I've taken and deposited some Rat Matic, some DAI, and of course some Rat Bitcoin, right? Now all of this is, privately held in my private ZK address, and all of these notes of these tokens are like associated to my private balance, and only I can spend them. And actually, what's really fascinating, right, is the smart contract can't discern how much is in my private balance. It can't tell. The only thing that it can do is take and verify that like the snark proof that I'm, trying to use to spend it is true and accurate, hasn't been nullified or anything like this, right? So, the accumulator has all of these notes on the Merkle tree, and even if like there's some token, some bad token that comes in, right, it stands to reason that like, this doesn't really affect my notes and my ability to continue to spend my, my encrypted balance. I hope that kind of like, clears up the like I guess the technical way it works. But yeah, absolutely. Please yeah, join our Discord. I'd love to, learn more. We're always happy to try to like figure out ways to do different integrations. Yeah, good point, Nutdown. Thanks. Yeah, our Railgun Discord is a gated community. So if you're staked, you could come and hang out with us. But you could also just go to the Telegram, which is linked there. Thanks. Appreciate that. Good luck.
Zappa Kidu says it's crazy how many doors this tech opens, and he's wondering if you could go a bit into detail about how Railgun keeps your funds safe. And he said something about considering that people have to enter their recovery phrase. I don't know if you want to touch on all that.
Yeah, Kai, you want to talk about how funds are kept safe in I guess Railway kind of? I think that's more of a technical nerd
Yeah.
question.
Um. So essentially, like railway is a yeah. So Railgun doesn't have like any kind of centralized authority like managing funds or anything, right? So it's your keys, your coin. So you the reason that you enter a seed phrase into like any Railgun wallet is because like your keys are derived from the seed phrase. So the seed phrase gets stored locally, and the relevant decryption keys and all get derived from that. So it is just purely non-custodial, which is why you enter your seed phrase. There is kind of like encryption at rest and all that happens with that seed phrase, but as everything goes with non-custodial wallets, like don't give your seed phrase out, and that's kind of it. Don't tell people your seed phrase.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess one
Don't.
solution to that would be, if like you're really concerned about it, would be to make a separate wallet altogether for use with Railgun if you'd like to.
Yeah, which is actually what I've done. So, but I have wallets all over the place. Yeah, so that's definitely a an option that people can do. You can just take and generate a new wallet. Make sure you keep that seed phrase nice and safe. Don't share it with anybody. And yeah, you can definitely do that. Keep it at arm's length away from something else as you're trying it out. But long term, I believe that the Railgun SDK. So I guess to touch a little bit on the SDK, actually, I think would be really interesting to close it out. Is the SDK has like fundamentally like three different parts. You have the arbitrary smart contract calls side of it, and then you have, of course, the like the Railgun Connect. So like being able to like go to Uniswap when you click on like connect my wallet, you can connect like your Railgun balance. And then last but not least, my most the thing I'm looking forward to the most, I should say, is the like basically like the ability to develop an incognito mode for like your wallet infrastructure that you're developing. So like say MetaMask could offer MetaMask incognito and use the SDK to to build that, which I think will be really exciting. So I think long term, like I really see like mid long term, like nobody uses a web browser that doesn't have an incognito mode, right? And I think the reason why is because they want that, right? And I think the same thing will be applicable for wallets going on into the future, right? It'll have like a public mode and you'll have like your incognito mode. So like you'll be able to hit, control shift in on your, transactions and do transactions in a private fashion. And I think this will, allow that like, um, that narrative of DeFi becoming the future of finance to happen a lot more readily because I'm sure that like, I don't want the Starbucks to know how much money I have in my bank account, but the converse is true too, right? Just because somebody buys a coffee from Starbucks doesn't mean that Starbucks wants you to know how much, crypto they have in their Starbucks wallet, right? And so I kind of see that this kind of thing will definitely take over, over the long term. People will have the ability to transact, in a way that won't dox their wallets. And the great news is they could use the SDK for Railgun to accomplish that.
Sweet. Well, we are a little bit over the time here, but if you guys got some last minute questions, and Railelujah doesn't mind, get them in quick.
Yeah, yeah. If there's no other questions, of course we're active on Discord. You can feel free to at me here in Polygon chat if you have any questions that you think of after the fact. You can find us on Telegram. I'm on Twitter. Kai's on Twitter. Feel free to ask questions as you think of them throughout the future. And yeah, give it a go. Go to railway.xyz and yeah, try it for yourself. And thanks for having us. It's good
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for coming out. It's been fantastic having you guys. Great meeting the both of you, and I'd definitely be interested in having you guys on for another AMA sometime in the future if you'd like.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love it. As we get more and more integrations, I'd love to, further the discussion on different ways people can degen in a private fashion. So we're always happy to come back. Yeah, thanks so much.
Fantastic. I'm going to be looking forward to hearing all about your future integrations and achievements. And I'm sure the rest of the people here will be too. So thank you so much again for coming out. Um, and yeah, with that, I think we'll wrap it up.
Perfect. Cheers, man.
Cheers, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.